You said, I've been an addict. I've been through an eating disorder that almost killed me. I've been grossly overweight. There was a time when I'd look back at all those versions of me and worry that I'd slip back. I was afraid of the person I was. Now, I don't really know these stories about you. Could you give some insight into your past, the eating disorder, into being overweight, being an addict? I'd just like to hear more about it.
They were all kind of part of the same process, which is how most of these things work. I think, one of the things I've always told people with eating disorders is they don't ever truly go away because it was never about the food. It's always a pattern of thinking. It's a pattern of, it's a way you view yourself. It's a way you view the things you control. It's all part of your personality. And I think a lot of this eating disorder recovery, addiction, like a lot of them are kind of in similar areas psychologically, if not neurologically. I was very active in high school. Not the greatest athlete, but very active. Played pretty much every sport I could imagine. When I went to college, I didn't have any ability to self-start on any of that. I didn't have any organized teams. I didn't have anyone breathing down my throat. I always resisted sports to a certain extent. I resented them a little bit because I felt like I was never very good at any specific one. So I always felt a little bit like I'm out of my element here. I'm being forced to go do this. I'm being forced to go train. No matter how hard I work, I'm never going to be, I'm never going to be first string in football. And I never was. Close my senior year, but that was it. And so I think when I went to college, I kind of forgot about all that. I sort of rebelled. The one thing I did keep up, though, were the eating patterns that had me doing 4 to 5 hours of exercise a day. So I gained, I would say, close to 75, 80 pounds.
Oh, wow.
In about a year and a half. And it showed. It got even more. Yeah. Well, I was 168 in high school and I was close to 250.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, there's some people who say, well, that's not grossly overweight. But when it happens that quickly,
yeah,
it really was. Talk about, because there's one thing about slowly gaining weight over time and all that, but sort of acclimating to your body a little bit. None of that. I was horrendous shape, like sleep apnea.
Oh, wow.
Like for years.
Were you binge eating?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't see it that way.
Okay.
I didn't see it that way. I saw it almost as liberation. I would just order myself an entire Domino's deep dish pizza with extra cheese at night with breadsticks on the side, and I would eat until I was stuffed. And there was almost liberty to that because I was like, I'm not on a team anymore. I don't have to be healthy for anything. I can do what I want. So I would do that. I would drink constantly, and I gained a lot of weight. And I hit a point. My things weren't going great for me psychologically at that time for a number of reasons. But then I realized, I can't keep doing this. And I don't want to call out who said something because I don't want them to feel bad because it was a very innocent statement. But it really made me rethink where I was at. And I decided, well, no, I'm going to lose this weight again. And so I started very reasonably. I thought I went down to 1 meal a day. I just had my dinner. And then I thought, because my dinner was like a 3,500 calorie pizza. I was like, okay, maybe I can make that a little bit more reasonable. So I went from a big dinner to a small dinner. And as I was losing weight, I went from a small dinner to the most calorie efficient dinner I could have. And then I started cutting out things from that. And then I started out with things like different fat burners. At the time, there were things like lipokinetics, which was, do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Oh, man. So lipokinetics was, you've heard of, oh, God, what is it? Oh, my God, I just drew a blank on it. There's that diet compound that's actually based on, it's an oxidative uncoupler.
I have no idea.
Yeah, there's one. It's still sometimes used in bodybuilding circles. What it actually does is, for all intents and purposes,
It's not ephedrine.
No. Like pokes holes in the electron transport chain. But it's, anybody watching this is going to be like, I know. But yeah,
I guarantee you most people watching this are not going to know
well,
it.
Because it was famous for a while because it was a pesticide, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it turns your skin slightly yellow.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it's actually a really, really potent drug. Hard to get, though, and can kill you very easily. You'll just sit there.
Maybe it's a good thing you don't know that.
Oh, yeah. You'll just sit there and sweat. It is extremely dangerous. So please, if you don't know what it is, don't go find out. But there was some legal versions of it that were very similar. They would literally speed up your metabolism.
Holy shit. And
Yeah.
Where did you get it?
There was one company that was selling it for a while.
Online?
Yeah, it was a legal version of it. And it came in a little black and yellow capsules. It got taken off the market due to contamination and having some other things in it. But I was popping those. I was taking ephedrine. I was taking other recreational stuff to try to lose as much weight as possible. And so I got down to, I think, 141.
Oh shit.
Yeah. 141 pounds. And I was in this mindset where every place I could refuse a calorie was good. And if I went up a flight of stairs and blacked out, it was good because it meant I was hungry. Because it meant I was heading. See, for me, it was like either I'm heading towards my goal, which is a little bit of this, quote, deprivation / being the most dedicated example of what I want to show myself as. I am no longer this glutton. I am somebody who has absolute, complete self-control over everything. And of course, that comes with self-loathing. You eat too much one day, or I think, my God, wait a minute. If I eat too much at dinner, I am literally taking a step away from my goal. And that was terrifying to me. And I think that's something that's come into play a lot in later reflections on life and goals and everything else. But it was the thought that either I'm getting better at this or I'm getting worse at it. So I need to keep depriving myself and keep depriving myself and keep depriving myself. And I remember I lost muscle control one night.
Oh, jeez.
And when I woke up,
what happened?
lost all bowel control overnight.
Oh, shut up. Oh my gosh.
Electrolytes were so completely off and I could barely stand up. And I was like, okay, this might be something wrong. So sure enough, like electrolytes were extremely low.
Did you go to the ER?
Yeah. Yeah. And they basically said like, hey, obviously they took one look at me and they're like, well, you're very thin. I was like, thank you.
I'm glad you noticed.
Yeah, as a matter of fact. And there was, I remember the guy said that. He's like, you're very thin. I'm like, oh, okay. But that was part of the mindset at the time. And a part of me was like, oh my God, I don't want to not hear that anymore. But then I was like, all right, well, okay, the whole idea of like, yeah, being thin but shitting yourself in your sleep, it's kind of a little bit less cool. So I decided I was going to actually get into the gym because there were people encouraging me to go like lift and work out. And they're like, yeah, dude, you're skinny, but anybody can be skinny. And I was like, you're right. God damn it. Here I thought I was being cool and anybody can do this. Okay, well, I got to do something more challenging. So I started going to the gym. And that obviously became an addiction that's persisted until now. But, it was filled with its own things as well. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best at it. And there was some like early on, like I dabbled with what were probably fake steroids, like right off the bat. It's like, look, little blue pills that somebody was like, here, take these.
Just orals? You just took oral pills?
Oh yeah, I didn't know what I was doing.
That's so funny.
I had no idea what I was. I was scared of needles, man. Plus, I was so skinny. What was I going to do? Like jam them into my femur? Like there was nothing else there. It's subcutaneous or nothing, man. And yeah, but there was a lot of that. So I was, I was gonna, I'm gonna gain weight. I'm gonna get really jacked. And oh God, this is a story I never thought I would tell all that publicly, but I went to New York for a while.
Okay.
And
the city?
Yeah, New York City. And this was after my first graduation from college. And I was in really good shape then. So I thought I was like, because I was still hyper, all about diet and the fat burners, but I was eating more and I was lifting. I was ripped. I got involved in a side gig, which you read between the lines, like I had to stay in good shape for.
Okay.
And recreational drugs, specifically cocaine, was a big part of that lifestyle.
Okay.
So, like anything else, I was like, all right, I'm going to be the best at cocaine that ever was, I guess, or something like that. I don't know what the thought was. I'm like, okay, cool. This is me now. So I became really good at it. I don't know what
at
that
cocaine?
means. Yeah, I was great at it, man. Just top notch. No, but like this was something that really like just part of my personality. This became part of my identity. This whole idea where I've been casting around for this identity. What am I? I was, kind of the smart kid in high school. In college, I was definitely not a very hard worker. I kind of lost my identity. And suddenly I was the skinny guy with super self-control. And then I was the jacked fit guy. And now I was the jacked fit party guy. And everything was just this too much. And that became a very, very serious cocaine addiction. And again, like all these other things, what snapped me out of it was my best friend at the time actually overdosed. I'm sorry. Thankfully, he survived.
Oh, good. Okay.
He survived.
Thank God.
This was not an OD that resulted in death, but it did result in him in the hospital. And he was cardioverted. Like this was serious. Like he was having extremely, I mean, he was in there for days. And they were like, yeah, he was really, really close. By the time they got him in, he very easily could have passed away. And it was another one of those wake up calls. I'm going, okay, what am I doing? Maybe being the best at cocaine is not really a thing to be good at. And, that led to another period of time where I was like, wow, what am I going to do? Am I just going to latch on to another addiction? Because when you start to see that pattern in yourself, when you start to see that pattern of, I find something and I react to it. And I react to it by trying to do something completely different. And every common thread throughout all of these things was just this absolute excess. And so a lot of my life has been trying to fight that excess. And I think that's, really like a lot of personal philosophy now, really where a lot of it's come from is realizing that, even when I first started in fitness, there was a lot of excess to it. I need to be the best at this. I need to be the best at everything. I've got something to prove to myself, not anybody else. I want to prove that I am always the person that I think I am. When I, have my little like superhero fantasies in the back of my mind, like I want to be that person,
Yeah.
And I'm the only one who can do it. I'm the only one who can bring that out of myself. And why should I set limitations on myself? I'm going to be the best at it no matter what. But realizing that in and of itself is where so much of that self-harm came from. I didn't get an eating disorder because the magazines were showing me pictures of skinny people. I had an eating disorder because this was something that I took a lot of personal pride in. This was my thing. No one could take it away from me. This was something that I believed was important to me. And same thing with all of these things. This was not my identity. This was something that was deeply personal. And that mindset, I've always said that a lot of times people with eating disorders, like if you can redirect that in some positive way, this is actually their positive personality traits that have just gone bad. They've turned to villainy ever so briefly, like please redirect them. And I think that's, it's given me a huge amount. And, people become addicted, they become addicts for a number of different reasons. Drug use after surgery is a big thing and a lot of other things. There's so many reasons why people become addicts. There's so many reasons why people go through eating disorders. But, I think in a lot of people, especially, again, those with eating disorders and there's that common thread. And then this is something no one can take away from me. And I think it's, in some ways, it's been continuously finding purpose. I've said throughout my life, a lot of things have been trying to find what I want to do and trying to find who I want to be around and what I want to learn, what I want to be when I grow up. I still don't know. Unfortunately, looking at the white hairs here, I'm like, oh my God, I've actually grown up. I should probably have this figured out by now. But it's not figured out. And I think just constantly trying to explore and speak to people and try new things and all that, I hope that never goes away. I think I've tried for so long to try to figure out who I am and what I want to do and what I want to be that I didn't realize that whole journey is literally the answer. And I think that's been the biggest change in my perspective is I don't have to figure out what I want to be because the process of figuring that out it's steered me right so far.
I love that.
Yeah.
What you said, there's a lot that you said that I love, but one of the things going back to eating disorder, which is something I struggled with, and I've been very open about it from wrestling, the weight cutting and all of that. It was so poignant the way you just said this. You said it's not a bad trait. It's the trait that found a bad behavior.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's such an important way to frame it because anytime you have a behavior, I shouldn't say anytime for everybody, but for me personally, if I have a behavior that I feel is bad, the shame and guilt that comes with it is overwhelming, especially when, and I relate to you on this, you want to be the best, not compared to anybody else, but because you know that you can be the best. And when you have this shame and guilt because of this behavior, I think it's easy for it to overwhelm you with, well, I am bad. I am bad. I've given into this bad behavior. And then you want to punish yourself. But being able to find that golden nugget of it's actually a really good trait that found a bad behavior and you can redirect it to something good. It makes me think about, those evil geniuses, the people who are criminals, who for example, I don't know the guy's actual name, but Leonardo DiCaprio played him in Catch Me If You Can.
Yes.
The guy who's just unbelievably
I thought you were
smart.
going to say Megamind, but yeah.
It's like, and people always say, "Oh man, could you imagine if they used that for good? Could you imagine if they used that for good?" And I feel like we all have that in ourselves, especially for anything we're struggling with. Maybe instead of looking at that behavior as bad, look at, well, what trait do you have that you can redirect into something good?
It's, you look at the line between dedication and obsession. And what is it? You look at these tropes that are like, oh, obsessed is the word that the lazy use to describe the dedicated. I mean, but that, like, exactly like you said, like a lot of these things are redirected. And I think a lot of people do have shame with these things because they don't want to hear that this is a personality flaw that has led to this eating, because it's something that is almost central to their being. They go, how do I unlearn this need to have some sort of regulation? How do I unlearn this need to, it's not a need to be in control, but it's a need to say, of all the things in my life right now, I want there to be some stability, something I feel like I'm succeeding in. That's not a bad thing. We all have that.
Yep.
And it's funny because I see this same mindset, which you see it in fitness, and in a lot of cases, it's still lauded in fitness. People always joke, one of the things is you say, oh, well, it's really tough to get this person to take an off day. That is in many ways the same mindset. If I'm not training, I'm getting worse. If I'm not using this thing to regulate my emotions or use this to regulate my energy levels, I'm going to go nuts. It may be harder for them to take a rest day than it is for a very sedentary person to go out for a 5-mile run. And it is that same mindset. It's, in a lot of ways, it's this same need for an area, whether there's this thought that there's some sort of sacrifice or some sort of self-investment that is challenging, that results in an outcome that they believe makes them more of who they want to be. And again, like when you say it that way, you're like, oh, that's not a bad thing. That's good. Like that's dedication. That's like, what makes entrepreneurs and scholars and all that. And you're going, yeah, but it can also lead to eating disorders. Like it's the same thing. And I think it's such a normal human trait. And I think understanding that, and people with eating disorders, people with these, any sort of disordered behavior, I almost hate calling it disordered, but you can call it what you want. People who exhibit those behaviors, it's so important that they understand, like, this is not a desirable outcome, but this is not something you should inherently be ashamed of, because these are potentially very strong personality traits, strong assets, things that could be easily admired to you about you if they were directed in a way that was more self-constructive rather than self-destructive.
Man, that's so true. That's that is the best way I've heard someone articulate that, and especially to take the shame out of it and be like, hey, listen, like the way that you're built and wired is actually incredible. Yeah. And if we can redirect this into something that's not just positive for you, but positive for society as a whole, like this could lead to massive amounts of success and happiness and fulfillment, as opposed to it being put into a behavior that is causing you fear and destruction and detriment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's funny because I say that almost that self-sacrifice aspect of it is important to people. That a little bit of the sense of suffering, like this is something difficult. That, I think, is the most important thing to redirect, because you can't redirect towards something that's easy.
Right.
You can't just say, oh, well, now let's focus on having a balanced diet. You're like, oh, well, all right. Now our goal is going to be to eat a reasonable amount with solid, even portions. And you're going, okay, I'm going to have exactly 178 grams of protein, which means I'm going to be sitting here like dry scooping whey at the end of the day. That can lead to its own
to the gram.
That's why there are people who are like, I used to have an eating disorder. I can't do flexible dieting.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So you go, okay, well, we need to now redirect it somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
And it can be something with self-sacrifice.
Yep.
In fact, in many ways it can be, because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing inherently pathological about somebody who likes inflicting a little amount of discomfort to themselves for a positive outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, in many ways, that's part of the human experience.
Yes.
Like we're kind of wired for that to a certain extent. So that itself doesn't have to be negative. I am all about self-love, but I also realize that sometimes people do want to have to suffer a little bit to have an outcome that can be positive. That's okay. Keep that. Find something that's hard. Find something that's difficult, that challenges you, that makes you uncomfortable, but has a positive outcome. I think that's the difference.